真的不死心的，该问都问了，好不好？
里面还有。
哦，你就摆上面那个架子啊，前面那个架子啊。啊，你们刚刚前面那个架子。
你就放那好，帮我放嘛。
哎，这里，你是不是吗？你不一样吗？难不成要把你放进去？
开始。
他们不淡定，都在那边不淡定。就看他有自信，没有，最后是没自信。对啊，
全部人都经历一阵痛。中午。跟别人交代，全部人都一起。然后这时候就是说，那我会不会提供代资？我掌握3个成分。
啊，咖喱来了，前面咖喱
扣掉我。
对，国内皮面，外面是国外的，这个哦，统包。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 各位国际媒体朋友，还有国内的媒体朋友，大家午安。On behalf of the Anti-Communist Taiwan Protection Volunteer Alliance, we thank you for attending this civil society briefing on Taiwan's 2025 recall movements. Since late 2024, a wave of large-scale citizen-led campaign to recall legislators has emerged in Taiwan. These efforts reflect public backlash against lawmakers accused of undermining democratic checks and balances, supporting regressive bills, and rising concerns over CCP's influence. Recall petitions have been launched in over a dozen districts with significant national impact. This briefing aims to provide international media with a clear overview of Taiwan's recall mechanism, ongoing developments, and the roles of political parties and civil society. Organized by the Nonpartisan Recall Watch Alliance, we hope to offer first-hand analysis, interview access, and encourage deeper media engagement on this critical democratic process. 好，那再一次欢迎国内外的媒体朋友来到这一场主要是针对这个外媒朋友来举办的一个罢免的这个说明的茶叙哈。那在相信各位国内外的媒体朋友都有在做一些关注。那今天也很感谢有那么多的国内的媒体朋友共襄盛举。那今天就各位报告的内容，其实可能国内的媒体朋友都会觉得，其实早都知道。那我们只是希望说，可以让更多的国际的媒体友人能够更了解究竟目前的一个罢免的现况以及它的前后文这样子。对。So in this briefing, we will touch upon issues including who is initiating the recalls, why are these lawmakers being targeted, what happens next, and what is the Democratic Progressive Party's role, And how can the media arrange follow-up interviews and coverages with the recall representatives? So today we're also joined by the following speakers who will lay out the context and details regarding the recall movements. Legislator Puma Shen, spokesperson of Anti-Communist Time Protection Volunteer Alliance, Carol. Spokesperson of Anti-Communist Time Protection Volunteer Alliance,阿梅。好，那我这边再很快速的跟各位带过，我们今天就是会为各位说明的这个台上的讲者哈，就是立法人史博阳先生，还有两位这个卡罗跟阿美是代表那个反共护国志工联盟的这个发言人这样子。对，那不好意思，就是我这边再跟各位做个说明哈，那就是说今天呢就是审委员今天只是以这个立院议事参与者以及罢免行动参与者的身份来分享观察，不代表民进党的发言。那同时呢，就是今日的记者会，那因为主要是为这个国际的媒体友人，他们可能对这个罢免方面有一个比较还正在进行一个认识，所以我们都会有时间留给国内外的媒体朋友来发问。那我们只是会先优先把时间先留给这个国际媒体友人来进行发问这样子。对，还请多包涵。So before we begin, I would like to inform our audience that there will be ample time for questions after the briefing. You're welcome to use the contents that are provided today, and we kindly ask our guests to keep the questions in regards to the recall movements. 那再一次感谢所有媒体友人。那稍后呢在简报后也会有充足的访问时间呢，也希望各位可以把问题呢聚焦在这个罢免行动的这个本身上面。好，那我们就先把这个麦克风先交给审委员这边。
Okay, thanks. This is Puma. So I think I'll do like a very brief briefing. I mean about this whole recall movement. So as you may know that there's 31 of them are facing the recall campaign right now. And then, but there are like several groups that people that you need to know. So first is the recall groups like Ame and Carol. They are like from the recall groups. Right? And we also have like civil society organizations that support this recall movement. Then you got like DBP, like the party that I'm affiliated with. I mean, pretty supportive right now. I mean, for this recall movement, not at very beginning, but I mean, right now I'm pretty supportive. So there are like different clusters of like people, I mean, supporting this movement, and I think it's a great chance. I mean, especially for our international friends, let us like introduce the flow of this whole social movement and how that developed and why people are coming like coming and having this recall right now. So that's nice. Let me see. Okay, that's me. Okay. So starting from 2024 February, as you may know, KMT and TPP try to pass some bills. I mean, at the very beginning, but as you could see that at the very same time, still in 2024 February, there are like several groups like Economic Democracy Union, 金明联, Watch Out, 卧槽. So Citizen Congress Watch. All these groups that began regular oversight legal scholars, and also legal scholars that raised the flags about all these procedural violations. So these people, especially civil organizations, started to criticize what's happened in the Congress at the very beginning, starting from 2024 February. And in April, the Hualien and Taitung bills were proposed, and the most famous one, they tried to expand their legislative power. We call it legislative yes, exercise of powers has also been proposed. And at that time, that comes to the Bluebird movement. And I think the media here are pretty familiar with the social movement, what happened last year in May. And because this recall campaign actually grew out from the Bluebird movement. And according to some of the studies, only 1/4 of the participants of the Bluebird movement are actually DPP supporters. So that also proves that this is the social movement is not organized or is not led by DPP. It's actually from the civil society. It's actually from the public. So after the Bluebird movement, and people started to think that maybe these legislators are not capable of suiting this position, and that's why they started to think whether to have a recall movement or not. And after that, we could see that in July, even there are more and more people start to criticizing all these legislators and thinking that it might need to be recalled. And the response, from KMT and TPP, is actually make them harder to recall. but asked him to provide the copy of the ID to revise the law to make sure that maybe it would be harder to recall in the future. That's the first step. And the second step is that our Constitutional Court actually ruled the Power Act unconstitutional. And after that, KMT and TPP, they didn't even revise the law. The way they did is to revenge. They actually paralyzed the Constitutional Court. And I believe that's the last clapping. Last pin to the clapping. So after that, more and more recall groups come out and collecting all this signature from the public. And that's why you saw the great recall campaign starting from 2025, January. Okay, so I think I'll be brief because I know lots of media are very familiar with all this process. So, like what I said is that there's a huge shift from the KMT attitudes towards Beijing. The KMT abandoned its anti-communist stance and aligned with CCP narratives. A great example here is that, as you may know, I have often been criticized by KMT's presidents or the KMT's caucus leader as CIA or American agent. Imagine like 8 or 7 years ago, KMT would never do that, accusing another party's legislator as the CIA agent. But it happened like every day right now. Right? They put it US as a very, very negative term. And what really happened all these years, especially I would like trace back to 7 or 8 years ago, after the Sunflower Movement, CCP actually having lots of more and more disinformation spread from China to Taiwan using lots of like pro-China media channels or YouTube or even TikTok right now. So a great example here is that last year we did a survey asking Taiwanese people, who do you think is responsible for the warfare there in Ukraine? So for DPP supporters, 92% believe that it's Russia. But for KMT supporters, 64% believe that it's the US. So imagine if you are the KMT politician, even you are not infiltrated by China, even you are not approached by China, your own supporters are already criticizing the US and saying that the US is the devil right now. So, if you are the KMT politician, you would be deeply affected by your own supporters. And that is why you see that the example that I just shared, the president of KMT or the leader of the KMT caucus often put US as a very, very negative word. And that's a great shift from KMT. But still, even for KMT supporters, part of them, let's say 30 or even 40% of them, believe that this shouldn't be the future of KMT. And that is why when the recall groups come out and try to collect the signature, they actually got the signature from KMT supporters, not just DPP supporters. And that also proved that this is the movement not led or not organized by DPP. And so, let me see. So these are the laws that has already been passed by KMT. First one is they try to weaponize the fiscal policy. They try to paralyze the finance of our government by the Fiscal Allocation Act. And also the Constitutional Court one that I just mentioned. And the next one is, okay. And also try to cut the defense budget or freeze the defense budget. And even for our Coast Guard or cybersecurity, lots of like the budget for national security has been blocked by KMT. And as you may know, there was a special budget just proposed by Executive Yuan recently for $150 billion. And it has been cut by KMT to 0. So no special budget to national defense, no special budget for the Coast Guard, no special budget for cybersecurity. And the proposal that they proposed, just a few weeks ago, is to give every Taiwanese people $300 to replace the budget that I just mentioned. That's what they did. Because they believe that if they could give people the money, the people won't come out and recall them. And the last one is try to block the national security measures. I think you already know that. One of the law that I try to propose is to ask the legislator if they want to go to China, they need to be transparent. They need to share their schedule. They put their schedule online. That bill has been blocked by KMT and TPP 72 times till today. So these are that's why people are kind of pissed off, right? They want to do the recall, they want to really challenge all these legislators, but the response from KMT and TPP is actually to make it more difficult for people to come out and recall. And these are the laws that has been proposed but not has been passed yet. So if the recall campaign failed, these are the laws might be passed within, let's say, 3 months or 6 months. First is that KMT and TPP, they try to shorten the residency for Chinese spouses from 6 years to 4 years. And also, they try to sideline the presidential power when it comes to national defense. That's the amendment of the National Security Strategy Act. And also another amendment on Cross-Trade Relation Act is about, they want to define the war between Taiwan and China as a civil war. And that is how, they could actually, prevent, other countries from helping if the war happened in the future. And also the Offshore Development Act amendments try to push Kinmen and Matsu as a free economic demonstration zones. And so I think that's a very brief history, for what KMT did and in the future with the collaboration with TPP and why the recall movement came out and what are the people looking for and asking for. And I think, is there anything that I need to share? Okay, so the last thing I want to share is that I already explained there's like 35 recall groups right now here in Taiwan, and 31 of them passed the second stage. So right now we're going to have at least 24 recall campaign July 26th. But also we have other legal teams or regional alliance or EDU and unlike the church system. There are already the existing civil society groups here in Taiwan and trying to help the recall groups. They're professional. And the third one is the Anti-CCP Taiwan Defense Alliance. It's organized by a very famous entrepreneur, you already know, Robert Cao. So with that Anti-CCP Taiwan Defense Alliance, they try to provide more resources to the recall groups. And the last one is DPP. Pretty marginalized on this graph, but we're trying our best to do more. So these are, all the actors right now in this field and trying to having all this great recall and make sure that maybe we can save our democracy after July 26th. So I'll pass the stage to Ame first. Thanks.
Thank you to all the members of the press for giving us this opportunity to share with the international community.
不好意思，我们可以站着吗？因为后面我们这边拍不到。
那我坐过来一点可以吗？
因为前面第一排都挡住了。
哦。
大哥，你是要拍几秒钟的画面，还是还要全程？
不是全程。
可不可以方便？我要看那个简报的部分。
好。
我如果往中间一点可以吗？被广大了，是不是？OK， 这里吗？没关系，好 ，OK。不好意思哦。Okay, I'm Ame, and I'm one of the initiators of a citizen-led campaign to recall a KMT legislator. This photo was taken at the very beginning of our civic movement. To protect myself, I had to wear a hat and mask whenever I face the camera. And later on, I'll share the story of why I eventually chose to take off the mask and show my face. So what we're doing is essentially a small-scale version of dissolving the parliament. In healthy democracies, the dissolution of a legislature is a normal check and balance mechanism. But in Taiwan, the system is flawed. Citizens don't have a direct way to dissolve the legislature. So the only option left to us is to use the recall process to remove multiple KMT legislators who no longer represent the will of the people. And let me be clear, the right to recall is a constitutional civil right guaranteed in Taiwan. We are exercising the rights granted to the people by our constitution to defend our democratic system. So why did we take this step? Let's go back to April 2024. The KMT's caucus leader led a group of legislators to China, where they sat down with Chinese Communist Party officials. And during that visit, the officials openly declared that both sides of Taiwan Strait belong to the one country, and promoted aggressive steps toward unification. They even shook hands with Wang Huning, this one, They shook hands with Wang Huning, the head of the Association for the Promotion of Peaceful Reunification, a group closely tied to the CCP's goal of annexing Taiwan. And this trip severely damaged Taiwan's dignity and sovereignty. And when those legislators returned home, our parliament began pushing through major bills using blatantly unjust procedures. One proposal sought to redefine the Chinese invasion as a civil war, attempting to downplay Taiwan's sovereign status. Another would allow China to unilaterally define which maritime areas around Taiwan it chooses to recognize. Even more concerning, these lawmakers have repeatedly blocked national defense budgets, including funding for our indigenous submarine program, at a time when China is escalating its military threats. As citizens, we simply cannot accept this kind of legislature. They do not represent the people's voice. Political parties may differ in their views on various issues, but when it comes to national defense and security, there should not be such deep divisions. Ideally, all parties should stand united in the face of threats posed by the CCP to Taiwan. That's why we're standing up and organizing this large-scale recall movement. So, how does a recall campaign work? Here are the rules of the game. To recall a legislator, the first stage requires collecting signatures from 1% of registered voters in the legislator's electoral district to file the proposal. And the second stage requires gathering signatures from 10% of the voters in the same district. What's even stricter is that the list of signatories in the first and second stages cannot overlap. Only after passing both of these stages can we move to the third stage, the recall vote. In the third stage, voter turnout must exceed 25% of registered voters in the district, and the number of votes in favor of the recall must greater than the number of votes against it. And this is not an isolated protest. As of now, over 30 citizen-led recall groups have launched petitions across the country, including in rural and traditionally conservative areas. We even have volunteers in over 38 cities around the world helping to collect recall petition signatures. The determination of overseas Taiwanese to protect our country is incredibly strong. Over 1.3 million people across Taiwan have participated in the recall petition movement. And to sign the petition, citizens must provide their full name, national ID number, date of birth, and household registration address. This is no small feat. Such an unprecedented civic action is far beyond the control or orchestration of any political party. This is a decentralized but coordinated wave of grassroots action that reflects how widespread the public's frustration has become. And instead of explaining their position to the public or addressing concerns about their ties to Beijing, the KMT has resorted to intimidation. They are trying to scare people into silence. In my case, as one of the spokespersons for the recall movement, the KMT held a press conference specifically targeting me. I chose to use a pseudonym to protect my identity and focus attention on the movement itself. However, they publicly exposed my personal information, including my real name, the name of my company, my stage name, and even the unified business number of my company. And here's the title: Exposing an Illegal Organizer. Goes by the alias Ame on the program, real name Cai Furong, and this is my real name. They accused me of running a fraud operation and claimed I was pocketing donations meant to support the recall. They called for prosecutors to investigate me. And I'm not alone. Many local recall organizers have faced similar intimidation through online harassment, administrative suppression, or threats of legal action. This pattern of repression is not about protecting the law. It's about punishing citizens for challenging those in power. And it is now 2025, and yet the KMT continues to behave like an authoritarian regime, targeting citizens simply for exercising their democratic rights. In retaliation, they launch what can only be described as revenge recalls. KMT staffers initiated recall cases against several DPP legislators, but prosecutors later discovered that a large number of the signatures submitted used the personal information of deceased individuals and KMT party members without consent. All of these recall proposals have now failed at the first stage and are under investigation by prosecutors. Now, the KMT is publicly claiming that the judiciary is biased, attempting to portray prosecutors as unfair in order to discredit citizen-led recall efforts and discourage public support. We want the international community to understand how dangerous the situation in Taiwan has become. We are not only facing military and political threats from Beijing, we are also dealing with local collaborators here in Taiwan who are enabling China's influence from within. This recall movement is not a partisan power struggle between the ruling and opposition parties. It is a critical moment where the people of Taiwan are standing up and saying no to the CCP. This is a declaration of democratic will by the people for the future of Taiwan, and I'm so honored to be here to share the full story with you. We are making history, and we call on the international community to support us. Thank you. Thank you, Ame. Thank you. Should I stand up? Okay, I'll just sit. Thank you everyone for your time to be here, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to explain to especially the international press about what we are going on and what we are doing and why we are doing. And Puma and Ame just mentioned pretty much about everything, but I'll just give you more details about how we, the 100% grassroots civic group, how we organize, how we recruit, how we expand, how we manage everything all by ourselves pretty much. My name is Carol. I'm from the same team with Ahmed, and our team is from Taipei City, the region called Zhongshan and North Songshan area. And the lady, the KMT legislator that we aim to recall, her name is Wang Hongwei. And she is a very, very poor CCP lawmakers, and that's one of the very, I'll say the most important stance of this 100% grassroots recall group. Okay, here is the timeline of how we're going on. So, Puma just mentioned that, and perhaps everyone knows that what happened in last year. This is really a chaotic situation in Taiwan's parliament. So the Boober movement, which took place in the May and June of the 2024, that many of us we were on the street protesting this chaotic situation. We were so desperate and so upset about that. But by the time we were just we were not doing anything. But about the time, about July and August, and when everything goes worse, in our parliament, and more young people get together and we know each other on the internet, and then we sort of try to remind people that actually we have a right given by the Constitution that we can recall all these poor CCP lawmakers. So what we do is that she was one of the major initiators of our group. But what we did by the time, we just launched the social media accounts on Facebook, on Threads, on Instagram, to try to promote and teach people and remind people that we have the right to recall them. But not until the late December that we launched the very first ground campaign, which means we basically have the volunteers standing on the street and in the traditional market and having our paper, the physical paper, and teaching these the grandma and grandpa who have done their grocery and saying, "Hello, we are the recall groups. If you live in the Zhongshan district, you just have the right to sign your petition paper." Yeah, and so very first underground campaign started from December. And Ahmed just mentioned that in order to pass the very first stage of the recall movement, we have to collect 1% of the registered voters. In our case, in our team, that we have to register about 3,000 papers, signatures. And our team, from the very first campaign, which took place in 28th of December, and then we just took about maybe just 3 weeks, yeah. Then we collect over 10,000 documents. 2.4, yeah. 24,000. Sorry. For I think it's entirely that we spent.
in 40 days we collected 24,000 signatures. Yeah. And which is so surprising and so incredible, because by the time no one was talking about it could be possible to recall a legislators. When she started the group online and post on Facebook, people just just like just watching and say, yeah, dude, you're gonna fail. Yeah, no one can make it, but still we made it. You just try to work it out. Yeah, so unfortunately, it's unfortunately that KMT, what they did really trigger our anger for the people of Taiwan. So the response from the people, from the public was so good. So unfortunately, that we end up being able to submit the first stage petition paper with more than 3,000 signatures, and then from February, we submitted, and for the in preparation of the second stage, we have to collect the 10% of the registered voters, which is about 30,000 papers. And by the time we only have about 30 volunteers, which is so small, and half of them they are not from our team. It's like they are like supporting so many different teams, the record teams. So we realized that because we are one of the leaders that will have to manage these teams going on. So in February, that we announced that we need more volunteers, and so we post on Facebook and post on all the social media as much as possible, and also we create our Line open chat group. Maybe you guys know that Line is a super powerful app in Taiwan. We use that for pretty much everything. So for recruitment, we also use the Line group, and then if you want to join us, you just join, register on Facebook, and we have the Google survey, leaving a Line number, leaving a Line ID, and then we'll send you the open chat Line group link, and you can join us anonymously, because we know that there are some risks of involving these political recall movement. So by the time in preparation to go into the second stage recall, we expand our the volunteer team from 30 to 300 within just 2 months, which is quite incredible. Yeah, very incredible. Oh, by the way, when we were doing that, DPP, we don't even know where they are, to be honest. Yeah, we were all fighting all alone. Yeah, very stressful, very heavy loading of our time, of our work, but we still have to manage that. Yeah, so after the recruitment, we started to the second stage of the petition collecting, and then so. That would be here. Stage 2, we began for March 13, and then we recruit, just I say, over 300 volunteers, so 100% grassroots. And then we successfully submitted the sufficient petition paper up to 45,000 in May. In early May, is it May 8th or 9th or something? Yeah, and just expanded. And I may just also mention that we expand the team not just locally, not just on island, but internationally, but globally. That here she just mentioned here. This is incredible. It's really, really incredible. That imagine that we coordinate that more than how many countries? 22 countries, 38 cities all around the world, all by ourselves. How did we make it? Line again. WeChat, but not WeChat, WhatsApp. Sorry, WeChat is awful, sorry. Yeah, I hate that, yeah. And Facebook, Instagram, yeah, whatever. International, internet that we do it. So, sorry again, that's all of this coordination was done by her leader team with the international volunteers who is the Taiwanese maybe study overseas in Germany, in New York, in Paris, in Tokyo, and people were so worried about Taiwan at home then, they want to do something, yeah. So, and this is one thing I really have to mention, that how overseas, how we kind of screen or prevent the infiltration from the Chinese people, the so-called little pin, is that we put on the paper and saying, you know, I'm Taiwanese, my name is whatever, and we don't like Xi Jinping. And then you have to put on the paper this kind of the statement with your face reveal. And then we have the snapshot, we save it as the evidence that you are not the Chinese Communist Party people, whatever. You know, you are really, you know, the Taiwanese democratic supporters, yeah. And it works. It works to prevent all the infiltration of overseas. A very brilliant idea. Okay, so yeah. So by the time of April, finally, when the so-called Great Recall movement, like, you know, more than 20, 30 something a recall movement was going on island everywhere, including Taiwan, Taipei, Jilou, Hualien, Taichung, Miaoli, Hsinchu, Nantou, even Zhanghua, Yunlin, the urban rural area, really was everywhere. Finally, in mid of April, that DPP sort of started to help us a little bit, but it's very weak. To be honest, yes. Sorry for complaining about that, but that's the truth. I have to tell you the reality, what it is really like, yeah. And so our team, we are one of the maybe the most organized and biggest one of the recall team in this great movement. So right now we have over 500 volunteers domestically and internationally, and we are happy that we officially, you know, going to qualified to go into the third stage, which means people just, you know, the voters just can vote to recall these. Her name is Wang Hongwei, very poor CCP lawmakers. Okay. And then here is how I will emphasize that so many times, that how we kind of spark and motivate people to come out. Yes, because we knew that from the very beginning, we knew that this is not just a battle with the KMT lawmakers. In fact, we are fighting with the CCP. Yeah, who we believe that could be someone behind, I don't know, the KMT. So actually, this group, we were 100% grassroots people that we don't even know each other before we joined the team. For 300 people that we don't know each other, but the most important thing and most important points that we care the most is not whether these lawmakers, they are KMT or not, but whether their attitude to the authoritarian CCP. What do they think? What is their attitude about that? And our strategy is to non-partisan, any party steps. And our strategy is here is to use this. Maybe I don't know where you guys know that we use the KMT, the old leaders, Chiang Kai-shek, and this one is his son, Jiang Jingguo. They used to be the two of Taiwan's president, but so for so many Taiwanese people that they don't like him. They don't like them because they are sort of the political slaughters or killers who killed thousands of Taiwanese when they fled from the mainland China in 1940 and 50s. Yeah, but the only and maybe the most important value in their entire career of their family is they were anti-CCP. Yeah, for the KMT, for the nationalists, the only value or only legitimacy that the U.S. government allowed them to exist in Taiwan because they are anti-CCP. But nowadays, these KMT lawmakers, for this point of view, they are the proxy of the CCP, and they are attacking, destroying our democracy, our freedom, our constitution, law, and lord of the society, and do something completely, without the justice of procedure is something we cannot accept. So we do so many, how can I say, this material promoting this concept, remind the people that we are not recall, well, we don't hate KMT lawmakers. The point is they are so pro CCP, so close to CCP. And in our district here, because our region is Zhongshan and North Zhongshan, Songshan, and maybe you guys, some of you maybe knows that the North Songshan used to be, will still be the traditional, blue or blue supporters, because of the history. When Chiang Kai-shek they flee from Venezuela, they built the huge scale, the big scale, the dormitory for those nationalist followers. So those are the very pan-blue and deep blue family supporters. And for our case, many of our volunteers, they were from North Songshan district. They are from the used to be the pan-blue and deep blue family. That's something so important. It's not because you're DPP supporters, so you want to recall these KMT lawmakers. No, this is not the case anymore. It's no longer the case. The point is, so many of our volunteers, even the supporters who signed the petition, they voted last time to KMT lawmakers as well. And Amish is the most vivid evidence. You are the third generation, her grandfather flee from China, from Harbin, and then she used to be taught, educated, and grown up, raised up in the very blue and the atmosphere. So again, we want to emphasize that again. First, we are the 100% grassroots civic group, and we are not the DPP members or whatever, and we are not organized or mobilized by DPP. We do that all by ourselves. And oftentimes we feel that we are fighting so long without any party's help. But anyway. And also, the third is that the most important thing that we want to emphasize is that these KMT lawmakers, their attitude to the CCP, Chinese Communist Party. So maybe Eric, can you play this video for me? This is an interview of one of our volunteers that we did on the street.
Legislator. We don't want pro-CCP legislators.
Hello, this is Eric, and today we're on the site for the Big Recall Movement. We're going to interview a citizen from our Zhongshan district, and her name is Ms. Shang. So my first question is, what motivates you to take action for this Big Recall Movement?
I've been concerned about Taiwanese political situation ever since 2014's Taiyang movement, and ever since last year, I'm also concerning the quality of our legislators, and I feel very panicked and frustrated. I want to do something. I keep asking myself what else I could do, and after joining this action, I feel like there are a lot of people who share same interests with you, and they are also rooting for this recall movement. And that makes me feel more solid, and I can feel the sense of belonging and feel like more hopes toward Taiwan's future. I want Taiwan to have a brighter future. That's pretty much my motivation to be the volunteer here.
Of course, action does speak louder than words. So why do we need to remove and recall these legislators?
The legislator we elected last year is probably the worst one, and also the most pro-CCP ones in the history. As we are a democratic nation, Taiwanese citizens, we have the right to recall them, to send a message to the world that we don't need this type of legislator. We don't want pro-CCP.
Okay. Because of the time issue, that can we just play another one? Yeah, this is a very important one.
Hi, I'm speaking from Taiwan, not as a politician or expert, but as someone who lives here and chooses not to look away. Right now, our country and democracy is under threat, not just from China, but from within our own parliament. Two opposition parties, the Kuomintang KMT and Taiwan People's Party TPP, have pushed proposals that benefiting China, not Taiwan. They've stripped emergency powers from our Taiwan central government, meaning that even during war or disaster, fundings for defense or crisis response could be blocked in the parliament. They've also attempted to fast-track citizenship for Chinese spouses, giving them quicker access to healthcare and voting rights, despite their serious concern about infiltration. They've passed a law expanding their powers to summon citizens and demand confidential information, overriding basic checks and balances. They froze and cut nearly $1 trillion Taiwanese in defense funding, while China's threats keep rising. Military aircraft near our coasts, disinformation, cyber attacks, and covert influence. This is part of a pattern now known as FIM, fake information manipulation and infiltration, and it's not just showing up in Taiwan, but also in other democratic countries such as South Korea and Japan. These KMT and TPP legislators are not acting like representatives of Taiwan. They are acting like proxies for the Chinese Communist Party. So we are taking actions legally, peacefully, and rationally. Taiwan's constitution gives us the rights to recall legislators who betray public interest. For past weeks and months, we have been collecting signatures, raising awareness, and organizing recall campaigns. It's a tough process, but we are moving forward. Most importantly, this is not about political rivalry. It's about defending our lives, our future, with the tool of democracy. We are the front line, not of war, but of democratic resistance. We hope the world isn't just watching, but standing with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty much express our concern and our sense of our recall movement. Yeah. So now maybe just my briefing. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Alright, so thank you to all the speakers, and now we open the floor for questions. So please kindly state your media ahead of your questions. Thank you. So 我们先邀请国外外国媒体朋友先那个提问，我们稍后就会邀请国内媒体朋友。Yes， 那好，就是那位先生。
They say that we they say that we were using the system. They say that this recall campaign is about alternative voices as well, opposition voices. How do you respond to that criticism?
If we were talking about attacking the democracy, maybe we can go back to see what they do. From KMT. Here. This is chaotic. Here. Everything. What if we watch closely, follow closely what happened in Li Faoyuan in our parliament in last year? That KMT, they do so many things that destroying and not obey the procedure justice. For example, one of the example is that maybe you see that committee, one of the committee, they want to stop the committee to go in. They put up the entrance, the door of the committee venue, and without all the discussion, how can you explain that? And also the leader, Han Kuo-yu Yuanzhang, the speaker of the KMT of the parliament, that they vote, with the hands anonymously, and that's ridiculous. I remember this one saying that they only have the 108 legislators were there, but they counted with the counter with more than 108. That's ridiculous. Think about if your speaker, Nancy Pelosi or Mike Johnson, did that. Can you accept that? Who is attacking the democracy? I'm wondering. And everything, recall movement, what we did, we followed all the laws. Yeah, all the laws here. Yeah, this here. All the rules here is so strict and so strict, so difficult to run, even for many the elderly. But we did that, everyone, stroke by stroke, paper by paper, people by people, everyone did that. And if we don't, if we feel that we cannot recognize that, we just do it again. We think about it, over 1.3 million of the people who did that, follow the rules so carefully. And everything is, within the rules, we follow that. Instead, think about if you know that the KMT, they also announced the recall movement attacking the DPP lawmakers. But the fact is that, they pick up all these papers, all these documents up to 94 to 96% all fake, yeah? So who is attacking? I'm just wondering. Maybe they are attacking themselves. I don't know, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Helen Davison from The Guardian, and I'm just sort of following up on Ben's question. There is this perception among people who are opposed to the recall motion, and we know from polling that most people are now opposed to the recall motion. There is a criticism from some of them that this is driven by a side of politics refusing to accept the results of the election. So how do you respond to that? Is the argument that these legislators you're targeting as pro-CCP lawmakers, is the argument that the people who voted for them weren't aware of that before the election? Is it that they have changed their behaviour since? What is the argument for overturning those election results? And sorry, I had another question with that. Part of the confusion, I think, I think we were expecting Robert Tsao to be here today, so I can't ask him. But he has said in recent weeks that that the KMT is a Trojan horse for China, that he wants to burn the party to the ground. How do you reconcile those statements with the argument that you're just targeting individual legislators rather than the party as a whole?
I don't think we're just targeting individually, because think about over 31, right now, KMT lawmakers, but remember, KMT now they have the 52, right, seats in the parliament, and out of these 52, only 37 is 37 is qualified to be recalled because they are voted by the people from regional area, right? So think about that. 31 out of 37, they were recalled. It's not individually. I think it's a nationwide anger and nationwide movement that we don't want CCP. And the one thing that you talk about whether KMT lawmakers, I'm just wondering whether we're talking about why they are just KMT lawmakers, not DPP. The point is for us, their behavior so pro-CCP, and we're wondering, someone just asked us if this or another one KMT lawmakers, he's an individual one, and he's not pro-CCP, he's in support to the democracy, whether we can accept this guy. And my question is, I don't think if this guy, he is not pro-CCP, he can survive in the KMT nowadays. Because nowadays you can see that the entire party, I think they have the comprehensive plan or whatever, they do that all together with a very organized plan, yeah. And then individual, we knew that some of the lawmakers, they don't want to vote for some cases who is in favor of maybe in favor of CCP interest. They don't want to vote that, but they can. They still have to follow the will for the party. Yeah. So I think that's why people are so angry about that. And in our case, he also mentioned that some of the voters, they voted before, but now they voted the KMT before. But what is the attitude about our movement? I can tell you that many of our people who signed the petition, she just told us, I just vote her. I just vote Wang Hongwei. That's a few months ago. But now she can't accept that she's selling out Taiwan's interest and selling out Taiwan's democracy. Yeah. We face so many arguments, so many claims, and so many voice from people. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just add on one point for the leader? So because you wondered because voters didn't know whether KMT was going to behave this way when they gained majority. So I think it really goes back to the last election. The reasoning for KMT was that you need a bigger opposition party within the legislative body to keep the executive branch in check. So there was. And most voters would agree with that, because traditionally it is not without experience that we had a larger opposition party in the legislative body. But it's just that we didn't expect that they would abuse this majority into kind of sabotaging and of course going disregard to our due process within the legislative body. That's what surprised us, and that's what kind of made us aware that the only way to really check the balance was to have a recall movement here. Yeah.
Yeah, just add one point for I believe that you asked about the survey question, right? So the anti-CCP alliance, we actually did a survey like several times in March and April. So it's usually like people who are like support or like against. I mean, it's like 40 and 40 usually. And then, but the survey that you see on some, especially something on TV, they got like more people who are against the recall is because because of the design of the survey question. Because they often ask by phone, actually ask you, do you support the DDP-led parade recall? Things like that. So that's why, some of the people think that, hey, it's a DDP-led, so that's why they're against the parade recall. So it really depends on the survey question, how they design.
Amy Changjian from the New York Times. I have a question for both Carol and Kumar. How do you assess the likelihood of successfully recalling any KMT lawmakers in their vote on July 28th? And if those efforts fall short, what do you think the recall movement has achieved? Thank you.
Yeah, I was speaking from our perspective as a civic group. To be honest, we don't allow this recall movement to be failed. We have to make it. Because this is very, very last time the Taiwanese people have the right to protect our democracy, to protect our freedom. Otherwise, think about those cases that Puma just mentioned. If the recall movement fail, everything will come back, and then we'll become second Hong Kong. It's something devastating. So we are fighting very hard at everything we can. Some people just quit, some people just, many people quit. To devote to this recall movement. Volunteer teams, so many people quit, and yeah, this is 100% in. Thank you.
So first of all, is that how they define success? The way that all this social movement is all about that. To kick out all this for China legislature, that's number one. But number two is that to defend democracy. So that's why you can often heard from civil society saying that this great recall is just the beginning. They may have like more protests in the future. No matter what happened in the end. That's number one. So number two is that because like I said, it's like a 40-40. Where people are pro and against the great recall right now. So it really depends on the voting rate. The voting rate for people who really support the great recall is like 80 to 90% right now. It's pretty high. And for people who are against the great recall, at the very beginning, starting from February this year, at the very beginning it's only like 20%. But right now the voting rate for people who are against the great recall is like 50%. So it's getting higher and higher. So, and that is why KMT really want to frame it as KMT versus DPP. If they reach a success, and people who are like KMT supporters, that kind of an emotion might be triggered and come on and say that, hey, I really want to protect, the KMT legislator, and the great recall might fail. But, if they fail to, trigger that kind of emotion, according to the voting rate, still pretty optimistic right now for this great recall. But it really depends on what will happen for the next month.
Sorry, I have something I have to add on. This is the post-recall political scenario here. On the point that we have to emphasize again, the goal of our civic group is not the DPP dominance, but restoring legislative accountability and preventing procedural abuse, which has been, I don't know, have been used, abusing by the KMT and TPP lawmakers. Yeah, and also for the strategic window for reversal, if up to the 11 KMT legislative recall, we have to do the re-election in September or October, which means in every region or every district that either KMT or either DPP or the third party, they can nominate a candidate and to run the election again, and then we have to vote in September or October. Yeah, and it's out of battery. Yeah, okay, maybe it's okay. Yeah, so this first lot of the recall movement, we're gonna take place in July 26, and 24 legislators gonna be voted, and maybe there's a second lot. They will be take place in August. Yeah. Yeah. Timeline. Oh, here. Yeah. So the 26th recall voting, and it will gonna take place in July 26th, and well, on August 23rd, it's supposed to have a national referendum day, and the second recall vote is going to take place probably around September 20th. And for the re-election, gonna take place in September or October or December. Yeah, but in the week, maybe October. Yeah.
24 on July 26th, and 7 on August 23rd. 7, probably 7. Yeah. So combined would be 31. 24 and 7. 24 for the first one. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Usually, I mean, we should have like 31, and I mean to have the vote at the same day. But because we're going to have the referendum on August 23rd, so people who are, submit their signature late, because it's kind of overlap on the date of the referendum. So according to the law, they have to be held on that day. That's why there are like 2 voting days this time.
Just one silly question, which I'm sure I think I know the answer to. The reason we can't recall any TPP lawmakers is because they're all the legislature at large, because they don't represent the constituencies.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, they're all at-large legislators. But still, you could see some of the campaigns, some of the banners. They're saying that, hey, if you recall someone, you're recalling like Huang Guochang, the leader of the TPP. Yeah, because there are like lots of people who really want to recall Huang Guochang but have no way to do that.
All right. Any more questions from? Yeah, Mike.
I'm Michael. I'm an independent video and documentary maker. My question is for the, I guess for the whole panel. Is the purpose of the recall to punish pro-CCP policies or to prevent procedural abuse in the parliament? And if the result of the by-elections that would come after the recalls is a DPP supermajority, would that not also give them the opportunity for procedural abuse of parliamentary procedures? And my second question is just a practical one to understand the math of how the recalls work. In order for a recall to succeed, would it be mathematically necessary for a certain portion of a legislator's past supporters to now vote against them for the recall to go through? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think from the point of view, because we're not politicians, we're just a civic group. What we care most about is really just about the Taiwan's interest and also our democracy and also the procedural justice, because it has been hard earned and hard built. So we don't want to say to be destroyed, and so we want to keep it the rule of the society. And what if, as you say, DPP become the majority of the parliament, and then they abuse, as you say, they abuse these majority, and then I think we're gonna just recall them, because we don't care about who they are, which party they're from. The point is you have to follow all the democracy, all the democratic procedure, all the democratic rule in society and the systems. That's our bottom line. Don't cross a red line, whatever, no matter who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I mean, really, doesn't really matter like what's our political affiliation. I mean, it's all about whether we admire or, to respect the democracy. But back to the first question, I think it's interesting because if you circle back to the sunflower movement, some of them term it as a movement. It's trying to, it's an anti-CCP one, right? Because it's going to sign the trade agreement with China. But there's also another group of people thinking that it's about due process. It's about whether we have a healthy Congress. And so it really depends. And I believe this social movement right now, coming from Bluebird, to the recall campaign, is both, right? It could be anti-CCP because there are lots of campaign legislators that are so leaning to China, aligning with all these Chinese narratives right now. But also people care about whether we could have discussion within the Congress, right? Whether we have the due process. So I think these two are all the goals, from the civil society. That's what I believe, and I think they also believe so.
All right, any questions from our foreign correspondents? Yeah.
Sorry, I have one more question. Yesterday, I'm sure you noticed what happened last night at the press conference, and they basically said, they were using talking points, not for you guys. So Harry today said, we didn't have any campaign for So, how do you, as we get closer, presumably the more Taiwan will continue to make comments in Parliament, in the same way that they continue to make comments ahead of the last election. Do you think China is trying to influence the outcome of this vote?
I think China definitely wants to influence, but I don't think China sometimes they don't really understand how democracy works. So that is why, what Taiwan Affairs Office said yesterday. First, they said that please do not support the Great Recall, right? So I think another legislator, Lai Shibao, he also came out and said that he hoped that Taiwan Affairs Office could say less on that. Otherwise, people notice that, hey, if the Guo Taiban is against this, that's why I want to support the Great Recall, right? But second thing is that I think the Taiwan Affairs Office also said that do not trust Kuma Cap. Do not trust us. So there are several bullet points from them, and this all very organized. But what I'm pretty worried about is that one of the famous political talk show here in Taiwan, the host has been attacked by the gangster, and we still do not know the reason why. But for me, that's an alarm, because what happened in Hong Kong is not about the armed police, it's not about the PLA, but the one who really attacked the civil society is the gangster. So we're pretty worried about. I'm not saying that the gangster is ordered by China, but I'm saying that kind of feeling, that kind of tension right now here in Taiwan might create much more chaos, or even about all these conflict. So that's why we're pretty worried about it. And that is also why you could see the banner, from the civil society saying that the recall is love. It's about the love for this country, for this land. It's not about hatred. But KMT really want to form it as the hatred between KMT and DPP. So that is why we still really, from the DPP standpoint. I'm not speaking for DPP, but at least from my side, I'm still affiliated with DPP. We still want to keep adequate distance from this recall campaign. Otherwise, it would be demonized by KMT's narrative. And also Taiwan Affairs Office narrative.
好，那我先请问一下，在场国内的媒体朋友有没有要发问的？那如果有的话，也尽量不要把问题聚焦在那个大罢免上面这样子。哎，这边，请帮我再简单说一下您的那个媒体。
Hello, Cheng from CTS. I was wondering, because in my recent memory, this is the first and only press conference that are mainly focused for the foreign media. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I was curious about the timing because it's like a little over a month until the vote days. And did you guys like track down or actually find any kind of misleading message or like any misunderstanding on the propaganda that you think it is necessary to help this kind of press conference? And on the other hand, will you keep on holding this kind of press conference just for mainly focused for foreign media afterwards? Thank you.
So I think, to my understanding, there are like several recall groups has already been interviewed by the international media several times. But I mean, for this purpose, the anti-CCP alliance, I mean, having this conference is mainly because we often got lots of questions from the media and from international community, and that is why we want to hold this at this time. Yeah. And apparently, there are lots of misleading messages, especially a lot of narratives from KMT. But it's not the main reason why we're hosting this. Right? There's no like cause and effect. But it's known that we do have lots of like misleading messages, but we already like try to correct them. I mean, just individually or when we are interviewed by international community. But right now, I think it's a good chance because we only have like 30 days left to the July 26th recall. So I think it's also a perfect timing for us to actually have this kind of press conference to set the tone.
Will you like keep holding this kind of?
Hopefully, yeah. If we have time, but hopefully.
I can add on that because we've been reached in the region by the international press, and they've been asking whether some so surprising question that whether you guys are already mobilized by DPP. For me, when it was the very first time, I was kind of, wow, it's just a joke, it's just kidding. But then I've been asked for like 2, 3, 4 times, and I realized it's something very serious. So I'm so happy that we have this opportunity to clarify who we are and what we're doing. Thank you. Oh yeah, so there's one more information that our group, Central High, we just launched the X account, English account, because we also realized that so many foreigners or the international friends, they don't really understand what's going on the island. So we will carry as much information from Taiwan, from Mandarin, from Chinese language to the English language, yeah. And so to teach them, to show them what we are doing and why we are doing, how we are doing, and also on that you can learn more about hear more voice from our volunteers. We'll put on more videos or interviews that just with the translating English subtitles. And also, if any one of you that you live in Taipei City, we also welcome you to interview us, hear us on street with our volunteers, because we too only have 2 voices. But when you go there and meet them on street, you can hear like as many as diverse as possible voice and with a different perspective of point, Some of them, their mothers, their fathers are doctors, they are students, they are lawyers, they're YouTubers, and I'm personally from textile industry. I mean, we're so different with so different backgrounds, but we only have the one mission that is to protect our country, our democracy of Taiwan. Yeah, so welcome. So you guys can have the very first-hand information. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I think we have time for one last question. 我们还有时间，最后一个问题，如果国内的媒体朋友或国际媒体朋友想再发问的话。
Hi, my name is David. I'm a German freelance journalist. And I'm just wondering, because we have two female organizers here on the stage today, and I've noticed that actually a lot of the organizers of the Great Recall movement are female, and there's also been a lot of sexualized and misogynistic commentary about female organizers trying to recall KMT legislators. What role do you think women play in the movement, and why is it mainly, or a majority of women being active in this movement? Thank you.
Well, I think your observation is completely correct. In our team, I would say 60% of volunteers are females and only 40% are male. I'm wondering. I think that it's a very deep subject. Why the gender is kind of not very balanced. But I have to say, as far as I know, so for so many mothers, wives that they come out on the street, they have the support from their husband and from the kids, the father of the kids. Because when mom is on the street, who takes care of the kids? That's the dad. Yeah. So I think also one of the things I have been interviewed or asking why males you don't come out. I think two reasons. One of the reasons that in Taiwan society, the man is still the major income source, because and so if he come out to the street, he have to sacrifice to a certain point of his career, his time, and also the salary, the income, and that gonna be too much pressure for the family. That's one thing. The second thing is that for so many men, when they are doing their, the career, in Taiwan, we don't really talk about what is your attitude, which party you're in favor of. So what if some male volunteers or some men, they told me that they choose to stay hidden because they don't want to be recognized by his boss, by some customers, or his partnership on television. Yeah, that's something could bring them into some troubles. Yeah, but for female, for mom, yeah, they don't really care about whether it's the friends of my kids, the mother of my kids recognize me, and then maybe we are in the two different stands. There's nothing to lose, right? Especially financially. So maybe this is some reasons. Yeah. Yeah, and then one more thing is that that's an observation, maybe. Because doing the volunteer job, we got rejected all the time. Because that people don't like you, they just yell at you, even put the fingers at you, whatever. But since that, the women are more resilient to that, stick to the point, and they don't be afraid of being rejected. But maybe for men, how do you think?
So that's not the question I can answer, but it's like so. But a lesson that we learned from Kuma Academy is that 65% of the participants of Kuma Academy are actually female. So it happens just not for this recall or the social movement, but it's generally speaking, I think female is more proactive. Actually here in Chinese society, that's number one. But number two is that I think because woman is kind of marginalized in this the social structure. So I think female is also more sensitive to the threat, and that's why when they feel the threat and even is more proactive, if there's any lessons or any movement that they could join, they just come out. That might be the reason. It's just my 2 cents. And also, just last one thing is that men here, here in Taiwan, sometimes lots of them really are kind of confident. They believe that if something happened, I'll just fight till the end. There's a lot of things I know what to do. So that kind of attitude sometimes might prevent them from, participating at the very beginning. But this social movement, when it lasts for like a year, you could see that more and more male, kind of like join this movement. But at the very beginning, I think it's even more than 60% female. Yeah. But right now it's more balanced. Yes,
And based on my observation as a survivor of sexual violence, I believe one of the reasons more women are speaking out is because many of us have experienced harassment ourselves. And it's instinctive for us to want to prevent others from going through the same kind of trauma. China's aggression toward Taiwan has hinted these anxieties for us, and which is why more women are stepping forward. And this is my observation.
Okay, so thank you all for taking the time to attend this briefing, and please enjoy some coffee and tea and some refreshments. And once again, we welcome you to keep in touch with our volunteers here. So with that said, we conclude this briefing. Thank you so much.